Hey everyone, and welcome back to the.universary. Today's case is a small claims case out of Thurston County, Washington, before the Honorable Judge Brett Buckley. We have Justin Engstrom versus Simply Home Realty. Justin was a previous tenant and, upon moving out, was promised a portion of his security deposit in return and hasn't received it. Now, there's a question regarding how much of the security deposit he should get back. There was an eviction process started, and so Simply Home Realty is trying to assess Justin for some of the cost of retaining an attorney and having them represent them and starting the whole eviction process. And Justin is saying that that's not appropriate. It comes down to a really interesting legal question, as typically lawyers' fees are not something that you can sue for in small claims court. Let me know in the comments if you think the judge made the right decision. All right, hope you enjoy.
And Mr. Engstrom and Mr. Keon, and the other person for Simply Home Realty is?
Charlene.
Say that again.
Charlene.
And Charlene, your last name?
Victoria.
Victoria, thank you.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Engstrom has filed a claim for $3,600 for security deposit, although it looked like on the documents filed by Simply Home Realty, the security deposit was $3,550. Let's start by clarifying that, Mr. Engstrom. Is that the accurate number is $3,550?
That is the amount of the security deposit, Your Honor. I was looking to recoup the fee for filing as well if possible.
Yeah, okay. That we deal with that on a separate basis. So, all right.
My
so
apologies.
You're acknowledging that the deposited issue is the $3,550.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. And looking at the information you had provided, it was unclear to me exactly what the nature of your claim for the return of the deposit is. It looked like it was related to an eviction action, maybe you having to pay attorney's fees to represent you in that, something like that. It's sort of what I was interpreting out of what you filed. So tell me what the basis of your claim is.
Your Honor, they owe me my security deposit, and they haven't sent it to me. I moved out.
Go ahead.
My apologies, Your Honor. I moved out of the residence on January 18th. I followed up with them on January 25th, said, hey, where are we at on this process? According to their documents or the evidence they filed, they supposedly printed the check on the 25th. According to the mediation we just had, they sent it out on the 26th. I haven't seen it. They also stated via their evidence that they printed the check for the attorney fee overpayment on the 17th of February, which is a Saturday. So they also could not have gotten that to me before that 30-day time frame, which is what I understand is required by law. I'm coming here today, Your Honor, because it's been 4 months. I haven't seen the security deposit that they have agreed that I am owed, and I'm not sure what other steps to take in order to recoup those monies at this time, Your Honor.
Okay, so, and who is Mr. Kean? Are you going to speak for Simply Home or Ms. Victoria?
I will.
Okay, so let's get right to that point. Mr. Engstrom indicates that you do agree that he's owed the return of the deposit. Is that correct?
Yes, we mailed it out to him on January 26th. We also emailed him just to let him know that he is getting a refund. He acknowledged that email. We also sent him 2 emails asking him if he's received those checks because we've noticed they haven't been cashed. Unfortunately, he didn't respond back, so we were not sure what happened, but we're more than willing to cancel those checks and reissue him new ones for the amount of $2,385.
Okay, so that's a different amount than he's asking for. And did you understand that's what you were getting back is $2,385, Mr. Engstrom?
Not originally, no, Your Honor. That is a changed amount. The original amount that they offered me was $17.10. At no point in time did they indicate to me that they were going to mail me an attorney's check, or for the attorney fee overpayment. That is new information as of this trial to me. Furthermore, their email that they did send, according to their evidence, on March 13th was
Okay,
not.
okay,
Sorry, Your Honor.
right. So I'm trying to figure out what the legal issue here is. I understand that you all have some other conversations that are going on. So from the deposit, how much do you believe you are entitled to?
The entire amount, Your Honor.
So you're looking for $35.50.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And Ms. Victoria, you were prepared to send $23.85, and that's based, the reduction is, let me check your evidence. I was looking through it before. All right, so in your move out settlement statement, you are deducting around 1,600 something. You're deducting a late fee and you're deducting 2 issues related to an eviction. So what's the story on the eviction? Was Mr. Angstrom actually evicted?
So he decided in November and December to hold back his rent for his own personal reasons. He hired 2 attorneys, and they told him that he was incorrect, and that he does owe us rent. And he called us and said that, we're right. I'd like to pay everything in full to stop evictions. That's what we did. And then in January, he paid his rent late, which incurred additional late fees. And so the attorney billed us 1,610, and that's the email communication I have in there showing that we're confirming that, is this the correct amount? Because this is what we paid to you guys. We didn't receive a refund check for overpayment. They said, yes, that is the correct amount. Then a little bit later, we found out, we got a call that they did incorrect billing. They issued us a refund. We let Justin know that it was an overpayment. They gave us a refund, and then we issued him that refund check. So in total, he would have 1,710 for security deposit refund, and then the 675 for the overpayment of attorney bill.
Like I said at the beginning, very rarely do we contemplate attorney's fees in small claim cases. So I need to understand, what are we talking about here on attorney's fees? Is attorney's fees paid by Simply Home or attorney's fees paid by Mr. Angstrom?
So the attorney fees have to be, for that to start, we have to pay, the owner has to pay the attorney. And then once that gets settled, then the tenant reimburses us for that. According to his lease.
Okay, so you're arguing to me that there's a obligation in the lease that if the owner, or in this case, the manager, Simply Home Realty, is going to pursue eviction, that the tenant pays the attorney's fees for that process, and you bill them on their deposit retention statement for that cost. Is that accurate?
Yes, he's required to reimburse the owner.
For collection expenses.
Right, okay. Okay, so if I take out all the attorney's fees, how much, if you're not entitled to 1 penny of attorney's fees in this small claim action, how much deposit do you owe Mr. Angstrom? Take out any deduction for attorney's fees.
So calculator.
Just the late
It
fee in that
So
case.
he would just.
So the only thing, it looks to me like here, the only thing would be the $230 late fee for January rent.
Yes.
Other than that, there's no other claim on here against the deposit. Am I correct about that?
That's right.
Okay. And do you have any dispute about the January late fee, Mr. Engstrom?
Only that the late fee was purely because, one, they turned off the ability for me to pay online, Your Honor, and two, I was late because I didn't understand the additional attorney fee that they were charging me at the time. The late fee is because they dropped another $1,000 bill without prior warning on the same day rent was due, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Engstrom, what's your argument as to whether you were obligated on the attorney's fees provision?
There's two sets of attorney's fees, Your Honor. One is the retainer, one is the actual eviction process. They overbilled me. I said in the emails, hey, this isn't how attorney bills worked. He should have taken the retainer out of, or the retainer should have gone towards the total amount. We went back and forth a little bit on that. Obviously, they got a call back from the attorney saying, hey, this is actually an over payment. Furthermore, according to, as Charlene just stated, once the attorney fee is settled, you're supposed to come out of the reimbursement. The issue is not settled, and they still charge me for the attorney fees, Your Honor. Furthermore, the eviction process, if we're going to get into the weeds a little bit, Your Honor, was not for personal reasons. It was because Simply Home Realty failed to maintain the property to a safe standard, including failure to maintain the property to some of Thurston County Public Safety's sanitary requirements. Unfortunately, they don't have any punitive actions. And I proceeded with how I would have taken things legally for the state of Maine. I was under the very ignorant impression that things would be a little bit more similar. They were not. As Shilling stated, when I did get a hold of my own attorneys, they said, hey, you've already goobered this. This isn't going to work for you anymore. You've sunk your own case. Go ahead and pay up, which I did at that time. Ultimately, however, Your Honor, it's 4 months and they still haven't sent me either check.
When you moved out on the 18th of January, that was this year, I'm assuming.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you give 30 days notice? Were you on month to month? Tell me what the status of the lease agreement at that point was.
They were well aware of the fact that I was not going to be continuing the lease at that time, Your Honor. That was a standard 1-year lease.
Okay, all right. So it looks like the lease expired on the 18th of January and you moved out on that date. So that was the expiration of the lease. You didn't move out pursuant to an eviction order.
Correct, Your Honor. This was a move out due to the
Okay.
expiration of the lease.
All right. And Simply Home is relying on paragraph 25, discussing tenant's responsibility for attorney's fees when if the in this case landlord is the prevailing party in the legal action. Is that correct?
Yes, and then Justin never gave us a proper 20-day written notice. But we actually let him vacate the home as it'd be beneficial for both parties.
Okay, but the lease was up on that day, right? So he didn't need to give you 20-day notice. The lease was up.
It's required by the RCW that they're required to give 20 days written notice before the end of their term.
Okay.
It's stated in that the lease as well. So he has the option to renew for 12 months, or if he chooses to not renew, he goes into month-to-month holdover, or he can give 20 days written notice.
Hey, Mr. Engstrom, did you provide the written notice?
I did well in advance, Your Honor. That is not part of the evidence. However, I can scrounge that up for you if you wish.
What did you do? Just tell me what you did.
It was either email or text, Your Honor. I don't recall which. It would take me a minute to find it. But I let them, it would have been like closer to 4 or 5 months ahead of time. That's when the issues really started to get aggravated, Your Honor.
Okay.
Your Honor, regarding the late fees for January,
Yes.
January 6th fell on Saturday, so we gave a convenience until January 8th on Monday to issue the 14 days and turn off online payment access. Justin perceived he didn't have online access, which he did. And if he felt that he didn't, he was able to drop a check off as well. because we didn't turn it off until the 8th when we gave him a 14-day to pay.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Engstrom, how did you serve Simply Home Realty?
I had them served through Thurston County Sheriff's Department, Your Honor. I do have their receipt document somewhere that I'm happy to provide.
I don't see it in the file. So how much did you pay for that?
I paid $60 for their service, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, this is a claim for return of a security deposit. Everybody agrees the deposit paid was $3,550. And to this date, although there have been attempts to return a portion of that, Mr. Engstrom has not received anything, and Simply Home acknowledges no checks have been cashed. The issue now is, what is Mr. Engstrom entitled to, because he's not at this point received anything. Looking at the statement prepared by Simply Home Realty concerning the basis for the retention of part of the deposit, there are three bases set forth in your form. And first of all, I want to compliment you on that form. This is the best landlord form I've seen for a move-out settlement statement. So it's really well designed, and it's very easy for somebody like me who has to evaluate these things to look at and understand. So it's an excellent form. I want to let you know that.
Thank you.
So in this form, and the law requires notice to the tenant within 30 days of the basis for the retention of any portions of the deposit and any evidence supporting that. And there are three deductions noted on here, two of which are for attorney's fees and one of which is for late fee for the month of January. I read the attorney's fee provision in the lease, and it does make a reference to small claims action, even though the statute doesn't authorize attorneys to appear in small claims cases. It's an attempt, I guess, to maybe circumvent that. And I don't mean circumvent in an illegal way, just to make the argument that, hey, we should be able to get attorney's fees in small claim case. Here, what it says is, in the event it is necessary for either party to employ an attorney to enforce any terms of this agreement, the prevailing party shall be entitled to its costs. The agreement is, there's nothing in here that's being enforced from my standpoint. I understand that there were things going on back and forth, but Mr. Engstrom left at the last day of his one-year lease. There is some dispute as to whether he gave appropriate notice, but based on the evidence I've seen in the files, it's pretty clear to me the parties were aware that Mr. Engstrom was leaving. There was not an eviction. He wasn't formally served with anything that I know of here. And if there was an eviction, the attorney's fees have to be sought as part of the eviction process in Superior Court, not as part of a subsequent small claim action to enforce that provision of the contract. So this would not be a way to go about getting attorney's fees. And folks using, businesses using attorneys, and the lease also looks well written. I assume the attorney was involved in doing that. So it's a well-written lease, but the request for attorney's fees is inappropriate in this court's opinion, and not something that Simply Home Realty is entitled when somebody is exiting the premises on the last day of their one-year lease. So there is no basis for me to grant the request for attorney's fees, and I will deny that. Thus, I will find the only thing basis for retention of the deposit is the $230 late fee for January. I don't find Mr. Engstrom's reasons for not paying January rent on time persuasive. So I will find that he does owe the late fee for the January rent, meaning that Mr. Engstrom is entitled to a return of the deposit in principal on $3,320. I will add in the $60 service fee and the $50 filing fee. And that leaves a judgment for Mr. Engstrom in the amount of $3,430 as a partial, almost complete return of the deposit in this case.
Your Honor.
I've signed that judgment order, and copies will be available to the parties in your file.
Your Honor.
All right. Yes.
The eviction was for November, not January, so I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay. Yeah. And, people occasionally try to get their eviction attorney fees in small claims. And I say, if you want to get eviction attorney's fees for eviction, if you file the eviction, you have to get it in Superior Court where you're pursuing the action. If somebody prepares an eviction notice and, is part of a, approach to a tenant, say, we're going to evict you if you don't do this or that, that's just the cost of doing business. And I don't see that as a basis for me to award attorney's fees in a case like this. So I just don't see that there's a basis for me to enter any attorney's fees. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.